Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Kareem. The topic I wanted to talk about today is trust. Four-letter word, so much meaning, so heavy, and is important in every single aspect of your life. Typically, the reason why businesses or partnerships fail, whether that's personal partnerships, business partnerships, romantic partnerships, friendships, call it what you will, typically there's an erosion of trust or a lack of trust that leads to it. But one of the things that most folks don't know about trust is that you have to be intentional to build it, and you can actually build it intentionally. A lot of times what we often hear is, I'll share this with this person once I trust them more, right? Or after I trust them, then I can disclose this information or that information. And in the process, we remain guarded. We don't share information. We withhold things that might be material or helpful in getting the other person to sit at the table with us or have a conversation or show up as their full self. So I really wanted to talk about this topic because I've studied it for a while, but I also know what it feels like to be sitting in a moment of despair, feeling like I can't trust and that I shouldn't trust other people. And it wasn't until I overcame those things and I really studied what it was that trust was that helped me become the leader that I am today. And it's helped in so many of my relationships. Now, I'm not saying go out there and trust everyone tomorrow. That's not what the purpose of this conversation is going to be. I'm really just sharing this so you can get a better understanding of trust, so you don't have to do all the reading, all the research and the digging that I did to get there, and to hopefully feel more comfortable in your own skin with who you are. When I was probably late high school, early college, I had a guy tell me that I built relationships really easily, and in conversation I made it really easy for them to share. I didn't think much of it. I sort of let it pass, and then I was doing these interviews for this Wall Street internship, and I didn't get the internship, but I had a mentor who went in and got feedback and said, Kareem, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And I didn't know what the person meant at the time. It wasn't until years of reflection on it that I recognized what they were saying was I was always very open. I was very transparent, just something that I've always operated by. I feel like I've never had anything to hide, even if someone else might feel like they should be ashamed or shouldn't disclose it. I've always just showed up as who I am. And so from that standpoint, it's come a lot easier to me. I've also been on the other side where I've gotten burned in relationships and friendships before because I trust really easily or I share very easily, and in the process people have used that information against me or manipulated it. But what I will say is the times that it has been used against me have been few and far between, and honestly the more comfortable I've gotten in my own skin and the more vulnerable I've been with people around me, the less I ever feel like I have to hide, the less I feel like I have to show up in spaces and not be who I am, not share what I'm thinking, or feel like I can't express myself in the way that I would want to. All right, trust. Backbone of every relationship. One of the things that I also will share is I'm one of those people who trust, and then if the person proves that they're not trustworthy, then they lose trust. There's a whole nother frame of thought, and my wife sort of balances me out there, but you can be someone who doesn't trust until trust is earned. I give trust until someone gives me a reason to believe that they don't deserve trust. A lot of research on this. The science sort of says that you're better off trusting and being hurt than the other side of it, which is not trusting, going through life, always being skeptical. And I say that to say that there's two options, but there really aren't. There's scales to all of this, and there's judgment in all of this too, right? We need to know when we should be able to trust someone and when we shouldn't be able to trust someone. We need to learn from every interaction that we have. When we've trusted someone too early, or maybe they've given us reason to not trust them. I'm not saying trust and trust blindly. There's a business saying that trust but verify, right? So you're not just blindly trusting, but you're verifying. You're making sure that there is a reason for that trust or it's grounded in something. Keep that in the back of your mind. Here's the truth behind trust. Trust is built between two people when there is vulnerability. So when you disclose something to someone else that they feel like is either intimate, really personal, or something that they feel like you wouldn't normally share with other people. And the vulnerability means that it is something that could ultimately be used in some way, shape, or form to make you feel like you're smaller than or less than, maybe even hurt by it. And I would again challenge and push all of us to push past that feeling of someone is going to use this thing against me. But really, vulnerability is about disclosing something to someone else that you don't normally share, or you may normally share but is really personal. That in most cases will prompt the other person to also share something that might be more intimate. So that doesn't always work. It isn't a foolproof plan, and they may not share at the level that you're sharing at, but that also means that that person is more guarded and may not be as comfortable sharing anything at all. And so they'll still be scratching the surface and getting there. But that vulnerability is what creates the trust. So most of us think, I need to go out there and I need to trust. And once I have trust, then I can be vulnerable. Then I can share the things that I really want to share with this person. It's backwards. And this is where we sort of stink or have work to do as human beings. It's the other way around. We need to be vulnerable. We need to share intimate details. We need to be personal with someone first, and then trust is built. Because then we have a reaction that says, you know what? This person trusted me with this information. I can trust them with something else. Now, if you're a little bit more superficial and you want to think about it in a different light, you can say, well, this person is giving me this information on them. I'm giving them this information on me. And neither of us is going to use it to bring the other person down because we both know or have things on the other person. So I share those within the context of saying trust is incredibly valuable. It is super important. It is the foundation and the bedrock of all successful relationships. I'm sure you've heard this before. Trust is really hard to build, but incredibly easy to break. My hope is that this is going to make trust a little bit easier to build. It may not change how fast or how easy it breaks, but it'll at least be a little bit easier to build. And then let me answer one last question for you all, which is who goes first? You might be in a context and you want to build trust with someone, but you're both, and maybe you know the other person also wants to build that trust, but neither of you sort of knows who goes first. Typically, it's the leader in any circumstance or in any environment. So if you're the one leading an organization, you're leading a team, the onus is on you to set the bar. You also set the tone for how vulnerable you go. So there's levels to vulnerability, right? Again, it's not black or white. It's not I disclose everything or I disclose nothing. There's levels to it, and you need to use your judgment to figure out the environment and the space that you're in to kind of dictate the level of trust that you're going to go into it with. But it's typically the leader, and in a relationship maybe where there is no leader, it's on the person who is more informed. So consider this a punishment for the knowledge that you received here, that next time you're in a situation, you know you're with someone else who also wants to trust and be trusting, that you lead with that vulnerability, that you set the tone. And my hope and my belief is that the other person will in turn also respond with the same thing. And from that, you all will build the trust that you need to build a prosperous relationship, friendship, business, partnership, whatever it may be from here on out. So now with this knowledge, I want you all to go out and apply it, do something with it, because again, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is the precipitous or the backdrop for it, but the real power comes from the action. So go out there and get after it.